Welcome to Diaspora's Career Challenges, where we dive into the questions every diaspora and immigrant loves to hear. Where are you really from? And the classic, what's that accent? Because clearly your name and accent are far more important than your qualifications, right? I am Sweta Regmi, award-winning career strategist and CEO of Teach and Do, with an accent that somehow always manages to steal the spotlight. On this podcast, we will explore the impossible quest of fitting in. From not from here, not from there, to sure, I'll blend in. We'll tackle the joys of code switching, the myth of cultural fit, and why people can never, ever pronounce your name, but somehow they can nail Mikhail Gorbachev every time. If you're done explaining where you're from or why your background makes you too much and not enough for others, well, buckle up. You're in the right place. Let's get into it. Is there a biases for languages and accent discriminations are out there? What do you think? I get this all the time. Your English is not bad. Well, thank you, stranger. I mean, was that the backhanded compliment? I really don't know these days. And there is a stereotyping of languages and intelligence. They will say things like, oh gosh, you're so articulate. And that means, translations, I did not expect you to speak well. Your English is not that bad. Wow, tell me more about how low your expectations were. Where is that accent from? Because knowing my birthplace is more important than what I'm saying. Well, you get the point. Somehow speaking multiple languages makes you less intelligent. Is the language, such as English, used as a tool for exclusion or inclusion? We've heard about racial profiling, but what about accent profiling too? And English profiling? It is real, my friend. Do you need the proof? The recent one I was watching this, when Trump got reelected, obviously he invited world leaders, and there was a clear difference that I saw it. And I'd like to share some things, what I noticed. When I heard Zelensky, Ukrainian president, all I heard was broken English with an accent. No one even talked about his accent. Obviously, they were talking about different issues, but when French leader came in, president, again, same English, broken English. They're journalists, Italian, European journalists, they all had accent and broken English. Not that good, let's say, in American standard or Canadian standard, right? Now here comes Modi talking in his language, Hindi, and I see a translator right beside him, and they're translating Hindi to English. Then there's journalists asking question in English to Trump, obviously with an Indian accent, and that is being translated by Indian translator in English, but there are a lot of media poking fun at it. Now, what I saw was the issues right there. Does that matter where we are born, what kind of passport we hold, and what kind of privilege we have? When we do not have English as a first language, it's our second languages, do people treat you differently based on how you are perceived, based on how you look, color of your skin? If you put European people who do not speak English at all versus the people from different countries like Southeast Asia or South Asia, do you automatically assume that the way they speak English, that does not make them intelligent? Do you feel sympathy and empathy for a certain kind of race? The amount of trolls that I see when South Asian are speaking in English online, whether it's politicians who is trying to speak in English, who's not the first language, the troll is all about accent. It's not about intelligence, the issues they're trying to solve. And I'm not here to judge and say that everyone is the same way, but certain demographics are seen differently when the English is not their first language and they're really trying hard. And the grammar police out there are going and reading all the posts on social media, including their tweets or LinkedIn profile or how they posted and pointing out the grammars in there. So not knowing English or knowing a little bit of English or knowing the English that you can speak fluently, how are people being judged? So European people, when they're speaking in English, where the English is not the first language, are they totally judged differently than the people who are born in South Asia, East Asia, in that part of country when they're trying to speak? Are people more hard and harsh on them? Are people building the biases in their brain when they actually see someone walking into the room who look white and who have not even opened their mouth? They have blue eyes and blonde hair, and automatically we all assume, oh, that person must be speaking great English. And the minute they open their mouth, they've started to speak in broken Englishes, then we still don't have that biases. We just let it go, let it slide. That doesn't matter. He must be still intelligent, or she must be still intelligent because she looks different. So now imagine someone right beside that person who's white, blue eyes, gray eyes, blonde hair, and South Asian person right beside you, or Black person. They open their mouth and you're shocked now because all of a sudden you're hearing American accent or a Canadian accent. Now our brain is already filtering people out based on their look before they even open their mouth. And South Asian people are struggling. And I am from South Asia and I could completely feel it. Accent insecurity. English is not my first language. And I still go through it all the time on social media when I'm going on live, when I'm speaking on my YouTube channel. Sometimes on TikTok, people come in and say, where's that accent from? Some people are really gracious about it, and putting a comments like, why are you having that fake accent? Now that is actually literally happening in my household right now. I'll tell you what, I moved from my country. I was born and raised in Nepal, land of Mount Everest, got married, went to States, lived there for a bit, and moved in Canada. I went to English medium school. I used to listen to the English music, and I used to talk in English in school. So when I came to Canada, I worked in the environment where it was a customer service. So 8 hours a day, I'm speaking in English. I was watching the shows like Seinfeld and Friends and understanding the pronunciations, trying to hear how do they say things, trying to understand the humor, focusing on my English language, and I was adapting to it, trying to be linguistic and sound like the people who are born here. I mean, I'm never going to get there, but I was trying so hard to speak like them. And because I was working in the environment where I'm talking in English more than 10 hours a day, my accent started changing. Nepalese accent, even if I want it back, I can never get it. I've lost it. Now, on the other hand, my husband came to United States as an international student so many years ago, before me. And obviously, he didn't go to English medium school back home. He didn't listen to a lot of English music. And he was totally okay with it, not trying to adapt to it. Obviously, he worked in States. We moved to Canada. He still has that Nepalese accent when he speaks in English. He didn't want to try it, and that was never his priority. No judging there, right? Now my parents and his friends and family, everyone compares me with him. how is it that he's moved out before you and he still does not have accent, Canadian accent here, but how is it that you have gone too far with it? It's like my fault. My kids are born in Canada. They are now teens. And we talk about these kind of issues at home. Even their friends, when they come in and when they talk to me versus when they talk to my husband, they feel the differences. So people already have biases when they look at us. When one sounds like someone different than my home country, they already have that biases built in. So mostly when I'm talking to South Asian, our own people from the community have their built-in biases, come in with the judgment already all the time. And we try to go blame the society out there and people who are born here and say, well, they have a biases. But I'll tell you what, we as a South Asian, we have our own biases. We are fighting with our own community when it comes to English and Venglish. South Asian get a lot of hit all the time in social media. Everywhere we're talked about English all the time, but when European people are speaking English, it sounds cute, right? The way everyone treats people is differently based on how they look, where they're born, and we have it hard, the South Asian people. I mean, you can say Iraq, that's a correct pronunciation, but Americans can say Iraq. So which one is right? So it's a society of privileged demographic. They define what English is correct and how do you pronounce it. Who decided what is correct English and how people should speak and what's the right way to speak? It is the privileged demographic society who dictates people what accent is right, what accent is the powerful one, and what English is the superior quality one. And there is a competition going on in the world. British English is the right way to talk? Is that the right grammar? Is that the right accent? Or American or Canadian? Who knows? Let me ask you this, to the English only speaker, that's your native language. When was the last time you took international languages class? How did that make you feel? Was it super easy? I bet not. Now talk about the diasporas and immigrant professionals who's moved to a different country where there's only one language that they have to learn, which is the English. At least they're trying, they're living in the country where their native languages are no longer understood. They're forcing themselves to go out there and talk to people, mingle with the broken English, or the accent may be so heavy for you to understand. Now, you see it, who's stronger here? The person who can speak more than one languages, but they can still speak, whether it's broken or not broken English, or you who has no idea when it comes to any other languages than you speaking English. That's a matter of pride for you. There's some homework for you to do, my friend. Now, the algorithm, let's talk about it. So now this algorithm is driving me crazy too these days. I mean, they can't understand my South Asian accent sometimes. I cannot pronounce particular word because that word is not in my Nepalese language, which is Z. You know how hard it was for me to talk about zip code? I used to say zip code. Pizza, I cannot still pronounce it. There are things that I cannot pronounce it because there's no Z in our languages. And people used to make fun of me, and I'm trying to adapt to it. And the fight that we go through all the time when I'm saying to Siri, Siri, do this for me. Hey, Google, do this for me. Even they don't understand us sometimes. So who is driving those algorithms? The people who have no clue on languages, English speaking people, because algorithms are driven by data. This is happening in a hiring world where AI video interviews are happening as well. And obviously, when AI is hearing the people with the South Asian heavy accent or African accent or any accent other than English they're trained for, Who do you think is getting a job? Who do you think is getting the next interview? Tune in for my Accent Biases podcast. It's on the last one. Be sure to see it's happening in the hiring world. There are biases, hidden biases for non-English speaker, people whose English is the second language. See how English language shapes our brain with biases? Sometimes it's very unconscious. You don't even know you're doing it. Sometimes it's conscious decisions that we make to make fun of people when they're pronouncing the word, and we have to correct them in front of a room full of people. Does the way we speak English, whether it's broken, it's fluent, with the correct grammar, describe our intelligence? Is that how the human brain works when it comes to biases? We automatically filtered out certain kind of demographic. Does that happen? Yes, it does. And there's always going to be that particular person who is English speaking speaker, English teacher, grammar police, and one day, once a week, once a month, once a year, they will come to me to show my place where I belong. And they have to show and correct my grammar. They have to correct my pronunciations. And they are not telling me, but they are showing me where do I belong. They're there to show me my place. And that is because English is not my first language. And I can feel it. And people can feel it. The way they show you your place just because English is not your first language. Language is shared, by the way. It does not belong to anyone. And are people unkind because English is not their first language? Look at social media troll right now, what's going on, and you would understand it. Is the reaction of certain people less hostile based on where we are from? How many of you corrected someone to say it right? Here's my message to you today. If you're members of privileged demographic society, we need you to change the way you think when it comes to non-English speaker. And stop the language variation to exclude people, but include the people, understand them, lean towards them. Even if they're speaking in broken English, at least they're trying. Knowing multiple languages is an asset, it's never a weakness. So next time someone corrects you or says that it's hard to understand the language or I don't understand because of accent, they are undermining your talent that they don't have. To the non-English speaker, but trying to adapt to it, just like me so many years ago, also with imperfect grammar, fighting those grammar polices, putting you on the spot, showing you where you exactly belong. If you are fluent in more than one language, congratulations. You're already ahead of those who mock you. Stop apologizing for your accent. Own it. We don't need to fix our accent. It's not broken. We don't need the accent class anymore. The problem isn't how you speak. It's how others listen. And to those who think they're being helpful by correcting accents, maybe start fixing your unconscious bias first. English does not belong to you, my friend. Language is shared. Intelligence is not measured by pronunciations. So the next time someone tells you your English is not that bad, just smile and say, neither is yours. And that's the wrap for today's episode, Diaspora's Career Challenges, where blending in is overrated and fitting in to someone else's mold is so last season. If you love this sarcasm, don't forget to subscribe, share, and I'd really appreciate your review. I'm here to remind you that you're not here to fit in. You're here to stand out. Your accent is still a mystery to some. Who cares? So the next time someone asks, "Where's that accent from?" just smile and say, "Oh, don't worry. It's called unique. You'll get used to it." Where can you connect with me? I'm all over on social media. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And I do have a free resources for job search and career under teachanddo.com/free resources. Can't wait for you to come in and join me next week.